Hey everybody, welcome to the Ronline Report. Today's guest, someone I've wanted to know a bit more about for quite a while now, REDCON1 athlete, super heavyweight bodybuilder. Please welcome Ben Chow. How are you, Ben?
I'm very well, thank you for having me on.
I'm going to start with the first obvious question everyone would want to know. Who's a Chow in your family? Because you don't look like a Chow.
Yeah, my dad's part Chinese. My mom's part Italian, and then they're both part English, so I'm a mixed breed.
So you're like a quarter Asian.
Yeah.
My poor kids are half Cuban. They will never ever be mistaken for Hispanic ever. My genes dominated. Yeah. Poor kids.
I think I look more Chinese when I'm off season. My face gets a bit puffier, a bit rounder, and then my eyes start disappearing. And yeah.
So I want to start up because everybody knows that you were Luke Sandoe's best friend and training partner, but I don't think too many people know a lot about you, and I'd like to know more about you. So tell me from the beginning. You grew up in London, correct?
Just outside, yeah, about 45 minutes outside of London, and then more recently as an adult, I moved into the suburbs of London.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what kind of kid were you into? Were you into sports or other kind of hobbies? What interested you when you were young?
Yeah, I lived kind of quite far away from most of my friends, so I just became a bit obsessed with like sport really. When you guys called it soccer,
Yeah.
but I was a footballer. Yeah, and I was kind of a pretty good level all the way through to when I left school and went to university, and I had the choice to either pursue a career going potentially down the professional football or soccer route, or get an education. And I'd been led down the path of get an education, and then the rest you can do. If you're good enough, you'll be good enough to turn pro, whatever. So I did that, and yeah, that never really came to fruition. So I went the education route. But I was always like a track athlete, so I was a 100-meter sprinter, long jumper, and then like I say, I played soccer. So yeah, it was kind of a sport. Both my parents are quite athletic. My sister played netball for like nationally, and so.
Oh, I missed the sport that your sister was part of.
Netball.
Netball.
It's kind of basketball without the bouncing.
Oh, I never heard of that. Well, that's the bouncing. How do you get the ball around? You just carry it?
You just throw the ball and then they don't bounce it at all. It's the same thing. Yeah.
This is the first I've ever heard of this sport. Man, I'm learning something every day. So, did you start weight training for those other sports, for football and for track?
Yeah, actually, I remember having the those York sand-filled like weight, the plastic weights that you have.
Yep. We all
I had a set of those when I was like 8 or 9, and all I wanted to do was squat more so I could run faster, right? That was my mentality from like that age. And I remember my dad had pretty much had like a spin bike, because my dad was an ex-professional soccer player as well. So he kind of became like a coach for me. So I'd come home from school when I was like 7 or 8, and instead of doing homework, I'd be on a spin bike in front of the TV and was doing sprints, and he was writing everything down. So I was kind of, but it was always a choice. Like I wanted to do that. It's not like he was whipping me and making me do it. But I just figured if I'm stronger, I'm quicker. So that's how my mentality went. And yeah, I was always trying to get stronger, but not bigger for football.
Yeah. So wow, you've been weight training since you were 8 years old then.
I say weight training, yeah, loosely. Almost like you just yeah. And then I probably joined a gym when I was around 15. And then again, all I was trying to do was get strong, not big. Because I was big into strength training for athletic performance. And then that's where I went through. Then I went to university and studied what I did there, and then that led me into like strength and conditioning coaching. So it wasn't bodybuilding as such; it was just more athletic performance stuff.
So let me ask you. You were trying to get stronger, not bigger, but were you getting bigger anyway?
No, not really. I was always a really, really lean kid. I graduated university at 135 pounds.
Wow. I'm glad you said
So
pounds. You didn't make me do any
um,
math.
I hadn't really put on any muscle. I was just very lean. Oh,
And were you at your full height, 6'1" back then?
yeah, I was 21 years old, 6'1", 135 pounds. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So you've come a long way.
Yeah, I wasn't the big beefy kid. I was
Man.
the skinny weed, but that being that small and light helped me with speed and agility, right? So that was
Right.
always that was always better for me. And then as I kind of moved into being an adult, I wanted to be bigger because when I gave up the soccer dream,
Yeah.
I then decided I don't want to be small anymore. I want to be
Hmm.
big. So yeah.
Just going back for a minute, your dad was a professional football player. Was he cool with you not pursuing that, especially where you had the athletic ability?
Well, at the point where I stopped pursuing it, the kind of opportunity had passed by. So once, I mean, it's different over here in the States. Most of your professional athletes go to college and then they get drafted.
Right.
Whereas if you go to university or college in the UK, you're signing away, you're giving up your athletic career. They draft everyone at 14, 15, and
Wow.
then you don't have an education. You just go into professional sports. So
Wow. Yeah.
it's very different. Yeah.
Yeah. You know who told me that, and I didn't even believe him because it sounded ridiculous. Was Nathan Dasha, who also was I think he was. I'm not sure if he played pro
Yeah.
football or if he was very very close.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what happened. So okay. So you went to University of Exeter. You got your degree in biosciences, human biosciences. So
Yes.
was the goal there to be strength and conditioning coach for like university or professional sports teams?
No, actually, the degree is more based around becoming more towards like some scientific research. So laboratory based, um, even going down the pharmaceutical side of things, etc.
Hmm.
I mean, I spent 3 years in a literally in a laboratory with my head down a microscope, in a lab coat. So
Oh
it
boy.
was, yeah, that's where I kind of get my geekiness when it pertains to bodybuilding. I like to kind of delve pretty deep on the science of it now. So,
Hmm. So when did you really become aware of bodybuilding, and when did you decide that was a look that you wanted for yourself?
um, I guess around 24, 25. So I came out of university and did some strength and conditioning stuff, did the usual personal trainer thing, but I was in a small town. And then when I got recruited for quite a big gym in London, in central London, and then the day I started, he's actually my best friend, or one of my best friends now. He just retired from bodybuilding. He'd done the UK BFF finals a couple of times, and he was a super heavyweight. Um, and he was the first big person that I'd really a bodybuilder, the first bodybuilder. I'd been around rugby players, like professional rugby players, professional rowers, etc. They
Yeah.
were big, but they were not bodybuilders.
Right.
So he was the first bodybuilder I was around, and in my small town, I thought I was big because I'd got up to around 200, I guess 205, 210 pounds by that point.
Yeah.
Um, and I didn't really know what competing was. I mean, I did, but I didn't. I thought it was like Ronnie Coleman and Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then I had no idea of what the amateur scene was like or anything. So he was the first kind of big person that I was like, wow, holy hell, like this guy's a monster. Um, and now I joke because I'm twice his size. So
So, did you have the goal when you met him? Did you immediately decide, when did you decide this is what I want to do? I'm not gonna give up and I'm not gonna stop until I look like that.
well, yeah. So at that point, I think him and I started training together, and I could keep up on strength because I was always like a strength athlete. So I wanted to have a big bench, deadlift, and squat, and I was athletic, so I carried over. I could transfer a lot of that strength into keeping up with him.
Yeah.
And then quite quickly, the, the body weight started to come with that style of training. So I took my strength training and started bodybuilding training, and then eating probably more consistent calories but less junk calories because I was a skinny kid. I could eat kind of ice cream every night, but I wasn't eating like every 3 hours. I was eating probably 3 meals a day, and they were junk.
Yeah.
So then I started to really get into it. Got my body weight up, and then that was I was around 26 when I was like, okay, maybe I'm big enough that I can look at doing a show. So I kind of started prepping, and then that's when I had my accident. I was in the middle of a prep when I had my motorbike accident.
Yeah. So tell me about that day.
So,
What happened?
so I was actually riding to the gym, and I had basically, cut a long story short, I was hit head on my motorbike. There was a car that was turning in front of me. She didn't see me coming. So I was going a straight line, and she just cut across in front of me. So I hit her bonnet and smashed through her car, flipped over the top of it, and ended up getting airlifted to hospital. Was in intensive care for a bunch of weeks, had multiple surgeries, and yeah, came out of that in a wheelchair.
Wow. I mean, what were the injuries? Just a ton of broken bones, internal organ damage. What
Do you know
happened
what?
to you?
So I didn't break a single bone, but
Wow.
yeah, I was doing 70 miles an hour, and she was doing like 20,
Yeah.
and I hit her head on. What happened was I had a backpack on, and it somehow managed to hook the back of my helmet and rip my helmet off my head. So as I hit her, my helmet came off, so my head went through her windscreen with no helmet on. So one of the injuries I had was my head was pretty wide open. Again, it didn't break or fracture or anything, but it basically it put a V in my hair like that. That I had to end up holding together when I was once I finished rolling. Oh, sorry, I tell a lie. I did. I broke my wrist, but I didn't know about that. I didn't know about the broken wrist until a year and a half later. So I tore out my left VMO. So the VMO had just basically looked like something had bitten a chunk out of the muscle. So 30% of that VMO was missing, and then just a bunch of road rash and kind of superficial scarring and injuries. But I was very lucky to get away with it, and I think I was around 250 pounds when I hit, like when I had the accident. They said if I hadn't have been that size, I wouldn't have survived the accident.
Wow. Now, you were unable to walk for months after that?
So yeah, I was discharged in a wheelchair, and then I was at home. I moved back to my mum's, and she had to kind of wash me and kind of do all that stuff, which was, I was 27 at the time, so that wasn't too fun. And then gradually they put me on crutches. Well, the problem was, and I know now, I had a broken wrist. At the time, it was just, they just said, oh, it's from the impact. It's just swollen and sore, because they x-rayed me a bunch and couldn't find anything broken. So I was on the crutches, and I couldn't really put weight through the right one. So I had to makeshift one of the crutches where I could lean my elbow on it and walk with it that way. So yeah, I was walking again after about 4 months, and that was right about the time I met Luke, because I then moved back to my dad's because my parents are separated. So I went from my mum's, because she lived in a house with no, it's called, we call it a bungalow, so there's no stairs,
Right.
so I could get around. Then I moved back to my dad's, and the gym that was near my dad's is a gym called Ripped Gym. I don't know if you've heard of it or been there.
No,
It's a pretty
Ripped.
yeah,
I like that name though.
yeah, it's a pretty good gym. Anyway, so I was in there, and I started to kind of get back into my training, and that's where Luke used to train. And then that's where we bumped into each other and started getting after it.
Yeah. So I guess I was going to ask about him eventually, but how did you guys meet? Was it just, two guys in the gym were sort of eyeing each other down, and one of you said hello? How did it happen?
No, we hated each other.
That's how it is when there's two bodybuilders that don't know each other in a gym.
Yeah, and it was actually our ex-girlfriends who were friends.
Yeah.
And then they were like, "Oh, you two should train together," and we were like, "No." And then I think one day he was doing legs and I was doing legs, and we were in the racks next to each other. And he was like putting a plate on, and I was putting a plate on, and it got to a point where we were. I don't know if we were intentionally trying to outdo each other, but we both got up to a pretty good amount of weight. And then he asked or one of us asked for a spot.
Yeah.
And it kind of went from there. We then said, "Oh, what are you doing after this?" Went on, did leg press together, and we found that we were actually very similar in strength, and we could keep up with each other.
Wow.
And that was a big thing for him because he didn't want to train with anyone because he could always outlift most people. So we then kind of started training together. And after, I tell you when it was the week after the British finals, because he'd come like sixth that year. I think it was 2016. He came sixth, was really disappointed. And like a week after we started training together, we trained that time together. And then afterwards, he sat down and said, "Hey, how do you fancy training every day together? Because I want to turn pro. So we kind of just started going at it from there."
Now,
Yeah.
had you started competing at that point already?
No, so I'd actually decided I wanted to. And the plan was to do a show. So that was British Finals are October. So that was end of October. And I was looking at doing, because I'd just been eating and trying to recover and build back up. So I was pretty heavy and puffy at that point. And so I was looking at doing a show in April, a qualifier.
Yeah.
So it turned out that then I started my prep in the January, and we went through. I did my show, qualified for the British finals, but couldn't do it because I had to have surgery on my broken wrist at that point. So then they had to go back and fix it. And then Luke did the Welsh qualifier, won that in the August, and then went on to compete in the British finals, and that's where he won his pro card. So within a year of us, we met a year, and then a year later he won his pro card.
I'm trying to figure out because 2017 was just Hollingshead one. So did Luke win it in 2016 before James?
Yes.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So did you guys become steady training partners from that point on?
Yeah. So basically, I was signed off of work. I wasn't allowed to work because of my injuries, and there was a big court case going on with the insurance and everything. So I was just sat at home every day, kind of spinning my wheels, and bodybuilding became my outlet, my kind of daily routine. Because I couldn't go to work, I couldn't do anything, and so I was like, well, I need to do something. Eat my meals at X 9, 12, 3. It was my routine. That kept me mentally stable. I wasn't depressed then. And then he was personal training out of that gym, and so we just trained pretty much from day one. From the day we started training, we didn't not train together after that. That was it. We went right through. Even the only times where I was out of the country on holiday or something like that, that's the only times where we wouldn't train together. So
I'm all over the place with my questions, but I know you're strong, a very strong guy just from seeing the videos of on your Instagram and the videos from REDCON. People are obsessed with strength to watch these because a lot of guys just are into the lifting and they're never going to have great physique. So they want to compare or they want to see what you're lifting. What are some of the top lifts that you've done at your strongest?
So I'm going to talk in plates because it seems to be easier, because kilos and pounds, it just becomes messy. Sure. So my best squat is 7.5 for 4 reps. My best bench is my bench isn't great. It's 4.5 plates for 3. But my best dumbbell press is 200 pounds for 5.
Wow.
My best deadlift is 8 plates for 6.
That's 765, people.
Yeah, apparently, according to you. So you say. I don't know.
No, I know. If you tell me plates, I'll tell you the pounds like right away.
Yeah, the conversion, I just go in plates. I go like 1 plate, 2 plates, 3 plates. That's what I'm doing. Yeah, I guess that's about. My barbell row wasn't as. Luke was a barbell row. We've all seen Luke row in 5 plates. The best I've done was 4. His incline bench would smoke mine, but on a dumbbell press, I could keep up with Luke. Legs, I think I just about had him. Deadlift, he had me on. I've seen him deadlift 9 plates.
Wow, it's crazy because I see those weights that you got. I see Hollingshead weights, and I don't think American bodybuilders are weak, but I think they all see what you guys are doing, and they must feel a little bit like, wow, maybe we should be training a little heavier. Was it intentional? Did you set out to be super strong, or it's just that's the weight that you ended up needing to challenge yourself?
I don't know. Well, like I said, I always went the strength option, right? To me, strength was what I started out as a kid, and then what I became when I was strength and conditioning. So one of my athletes is actually a UFC fighter now. So it was all strength and conditioning based, right? It wasn't trying to get him big. He needed to stay in a weight class. So my background and the way my brain was wired was always to be the strongest possible version of me. The size was for me a secondary thing. Luke, I think, was different. Luke wanted to be big, and he just put more weight equals more muscle together. And we had slightly different kind of origin points, but they ended up meeting together, and we just started getting after some weight. I mean, the year after he turned pro, that was, I think I made a post about it recently where there was it was a magic kind of 6 months where it was magic / scary, because we'd walk in and we would shock ourselves at, we'd put a plate on and we go, okay, let's just see how this one feels. And we'd walk it out and squat it or deadlift it or bench it. And it was easy. And then we'd rack it back and we'd look at each other and go, you want to go up? Like, yeah, let's go up. But it was happening every single week. And we'd be putting up the 180-pound dumbbells and doing a set and then putting them down and being like, we need to ask the gym owner to buy heavier dumbbells. It was like a weird little, everything just clicked. I think because Luke had just turned pro and I'd just had my wrist surgery, and we just hit a stride. I think that's where Luke's popularity started to really push up. Obviously after the Arnold is when he really exploded, but he started to get a lot of traction because he was this bodybuilder that was putting up big weights, big lifts, and a week in, week out, we'd both be posting silly weights, but we were controlling the weight and doing quite a few reps with it. It wasn't like a single, and we weren't struggling around. We were generally not spotting each other or helping each other up. It was just a clean set and we were controlling the movement. I don't know whether it's a British thing or not. I just know that there's a handful of us British guys that I'd rather train with. I could train with some American guys for an easier day, if that makes sense. Because some of those British guys are strong. I don't know
Jordan Peters, my God.
Yeah.
Oh, God, is he strong.
Do you know what? We never actually got to the point where me, Jordan, James, and Luke all trained together. We'd always threatened to do it, but we never really got it all match scheduled up. But that would have been either very impressive or very scary.
I think the universe would have imploded, so it's probably a good thing it didn't happen. Yeah. So you're not in UK anymore. You are now in Texas. Fort Worth. Yes. How did you end up in Texas?
So I met a girl.
Of course.
Met a girl, got married, got her pregnant. Yeah.
Okay, fair. Easy story. I mean, was there ever a discussion about her going there instead, or was always you would rather go to?
She had a son or has a son, and so she was pretty kind of settled here. Okay. I'd always had my eye on moving to America. Like Luke and I had discussed it I was always trying to get him. I'm like, hey, with this REDCON contract, why don't we move to Florida? We can go train at Flex's gym. There was discussion about doing it. We were after Tampa when Luke and Dexter had their face off. Yeah. I was trying to get Luke to stay in Florida from Tampa to the Olympia. And I said, let's just do 6 weeks, stay local, train at Flex's gym, kind of just put our heads down and get into a camp, I've always wanted, and I always thought his career would have done better or could have done better over here. Yeah. So I was always trying to get over here. From a kid, I always thought America was cool and I wanted to move here. So then the fact I met a girl here, and I was like, well, I'm going to move that way, not the other way around. So
yeah. So you've been here less than you moved here after the Olympia, you told me, right? So it's been about 8 or 9 months. Yeah. It's been about 9 months you've been here. So has it been a culture? How are you adjusting? Has it been a culture shock, or is it pretty easy to adjust?
No, it's hell because it's hot here. God, it's hot. Like I've got, like you, I've got my fan on blast right here, and we've got air conditioning, and my wife just sat there about an hour ago, and she went, oh, it's going to be 103 degrees tomorrow. And I just looked at her, I was like, it's not necessary. There's a level of heat that it's not required, you know?
I don't think that's even as hot as it gets. It gets hotter than that over there.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it gets a lot hotter, but I mean, I'm just lucky that right now I'm down in weight, because when my body weight's up, when I'm at like 290, it's way worse.
I meant to ask you before, what's the heaviest you've been?
290.
Okay, so
290.
135. So you more than doubled your body weight since college. That's pretty.
Well, we'll put it this way, right? As of this morning,
Yeah.
I was 270. I'm in a contest prep, so I was 270. So I'm exactly double my weight when I left college right now.
Yeah, like I said, I'm all over. I jump all around, so just don't be alarmed here. So the last time you competed was 2017 UK BFF Finals.
Yes.
That was the show where James Hollingshead won the overall. Yeah. Samson was second, and that was still back when only one guy from the UK a year turned pro, correct? So
that was the very last one was that one. Yeah.
Yeah. And you've called that the last proper British finals because of that. Because after that it was because I for all those years, it was so hard for you guys to turn pro. There was just no opportunity. One man a year, and you guys must have been looking at us over here like, are you kidding me? You're giving out pro cards like candy over here. So I have to ask
exactly
you,
that.
Yeah, why have you not competed in almost 3 years now?
A couple of reasons. So I did that British final with James, and then I actually started working with Milos right after. And I was like, I'll do a rebound, and then I was going to do the very first Two Bros show in the March right after. And then I actually got really sick 3 weeks out. I got sepsis. And I end up in intensive care with blood poisoning. So,
oh my gosh,
that kind of knocked that on the head. So then I took a year off and kind of just helped Luke out. We started a business, and then he got the Arnold invite again for 2019. So this was August 2018. I was well rested. I was in a pretty lean state. I was pretty strong, pretty lean, pretty healthy. So I figured, okay, well, he's going to do the Arnold. I'll spend 3 months, push some weight up, and then I'll prep and do the Arnold with him. Well, that's how we started off, and it was going well. And we got into the January, and like I said, we just started the business off, and it got to the point where he was dieting and I was dieting, and the business started to suffer. Sorry, there's a train going by. I don't know if you can hear it. So it got to the point where I had to make a decision. I said to Luke, hey, I'm actually struggling to get in shape this time, and I can get in shape, but it's gonna cost us too much. You know, I'm not gonna be able to put anything into the business, and I want to help him out. There was more to gain from him doing well at the Arnold than there was from me doing the amateur. So I knocked my prep on the head and started helping him out and helping the business out some more. And then I think it was a good decision because obviously he went on and was very successful with it. And so I pulled out of that show. So that was a decision to not do that. Then when I moved here to Texas, I decided I was gonna have a look at powerlifting. So I figured my numbers are pretty good. Maybe I've never tried, since I've been this strong, I've never tried to powerlift competitively. And I had a buddy of mine, Steve Gentili. He's a very elite powerlifter. Gave me some advice, and we were kind of chatting on Instagram, going back and forth. So I started doing that, and I just started picking up injuries just left and right. And the lifts I was doing weren't as heavy as when Luke and I were bodybuilding training, and I was getting tears all over the place from doing sets of 2 and 3. But I was doing sets of 2 and 3 with weights that Luke and I were warming up with. So it was just something wasn't matching up. And then, like I say, I was talking to you before, I got that back injury. I don't know if I don't want to.
No, that's fine. Cause that leads into it. Cause that's no joke. When did that happen? Did it happen during training?
Yeah, well, it was two things. So I flew back to the UK December the 3rd
Yep.
for Christmas, 2019. I
Yeah.
flew back and Luke picked me up from the airport, and he drove me straight to his house, gave me a chicken and rice meal, said, I'm not making any of this up. He said, eat that. We're going to the gym. REDCON1 are filming us train back with James in an hour. So I'd got off a 14-hour flight in economy, and I'd been wedged, and I was all twisted up and bent out of shape, right?
Yeah.
So we get down to the gym, which is Muscleworks in Orpington,
Yep.
and they just received a new pair of 230-pound Ivanko dumbbells.
Wow.
So we're like, well, the cameras are rolling. Let's get these and give them a whirl. So we go through the normal kind of, everyone's seen the videos of Luke and I training pullovers, rows, etc., etc., etc. Then kind of fourth or fifth exercise in, we get over to the single arm dumbbell rows. So we end up single arm rowing 230-pound dumbbells.
Wow.
And I can feel my back starting to not feel too great. It just felt awkward. So we finished up with that, and then we went over to RDL because we'd always finish back with one hamstring movement. And we figured a heavy RDL, we did it for a long time, where a heavy RDL would work well at the end of a back move day anyway.
Yeah.
So we end up getting up to kind of 5 or 6 plates doing an RDL
Unbelievable.
at the end of the session. And I said to Luke, well, I'm powerlifting now, so you boys RDL, I'm gonna just straight deadlift. So we'll do the same weight, but I'll just full deadlift, not RDL.
Yeah.
And as I stood up on the first, so I warmed up just fine. When I stood up on the first rep with the 6 plates, I just got this tingling sensation through both glutes and my lower back, and I was like, something's not right there. So I put it down, and then obviously they went, and the meathead in me went, I'll try it again. Maybe it was just something, So I do it again. I feel it again. So I do 2 more reps because just in case, because I'm an idiot. And then from that point,
we all are.
yeah. And then from that point, for the next month, I was just in hell. Like, couldn't sit down, couldn't do anything. Come back to Texas after New Year, and I went for an MRI, and I basically herniated my L4, L5, my L5 SI joint.
Wow.
And I had the canal nerve was being pinched, and the facet joints were arthritic and pinching as well. So
God.
I did a job on it.
I think I just saw you squatting 6 plates again, like this week or last week on your Instagram. Squat like Chow, by the way. What an amazing Instagram title.
That was Luke's taking credit for Squat Like Chow. That was his idea.
When you came up with Instagram, he said squat like Chow. That's what it's got to be.
Well, I had for years I had like BL Chow, which was just my initial, like Ben Lee Chow, right? So, and then when Redcon signed me, he was like, "Oh, we need to get you like a proper Instagram name," and I was like, "Well, there's a million Ben Chows, and it's just gonna be like Ben Chow 2000 or some generic one."
Ben Chow Fitness.
Yeah, and so I don't know if you remember the Jason Hart t-shirts that were strong like bull.
Yeah.
So I used to wear one of those all the time, and then for my very first show, Luke didn't tell me this, but he had a bunch of t-shirts made that said strong like Chow. And so he wore that, and then my sister and my dad wore strong like Chow. And then we were going through that. I'm like, I don't want to do strong like Chow. I said, why don't you do squat like Chow? And then that can be your. So Luke takes credit for that.
Oh, right on.
So yeah.
Well, yeah. So back to the question. Little over 6 months ago, you had a pretty serious lower. That's a pretty serious injury. I've herniated. Anybody out there who's herniated disc, that is the pain is excruciating. It's 24-hour pain. I mean, how do you go from that to being able to squat heavy again in a half a year's time? Have you had some major therapies?
So yeah, I kind of did a lot of things. Like you said, it's hell and there's no escaping it. So I was sleeping on the concrete floor because I couldn't get comfortable, and the bed that we had was so soft it was ruining my back. I'd have good days where I'd go and I went and saw a chiropractor over here, and he put me on a traction table, and he puts a belt around under your pelvis and then a belt kind of around where your belly button is, and it's got a computer and it loads it and it just separates the discs around. Well, I'd have a good day of that, and then I'd come home and I'd be like, oh, I feel pretty good. And I would lay down on the mattress and I would literally feel my back move out of sync again. And I'd be like, damn, I can't. Yeah, and I was on painkillers and muscle relaxants. I mean, there was one point where I leant on our counter in the kitchen, like texting, and then I went to stand up and I was stuck. I was like, like it takes your breath away. I was like, I can't move. I was like, I cannot move, and I had to walk away like in position and like lay, like kind of try and fall onto the ground without it hurting too much. It was hell.
Yeah.
So anyway, cut long story short about what I had done. So I was going and having regular traction on my spine, and then I got booked in with a PRP treatment over here. So they did PRP injections around my spine. They put 7 in. They put 1 in my hip, and then they put 6 kind of just all along my spine in the lower portion. So that was February 25th. They did that. So I went about 8 weeks where I was just in hell. Then they did that, and it was sore for a few days, and it didn't get much better for a couple of weeks or so. I mean, like I'd get a little bit better. I started walking every morning again. Just the more I walked, it got a bit freer and stuff. But training was hell. Like I could pretty much only bench press anything where I could lay flat on the bench and not be putting it through my back. But my wife was putting my shoes and socks on, and anyway, about 2 months ago, there's a guy got in contact with me on Instagram, and I think his name's Jacked Neuro. So he's a guy from Australia, and he contacted me and said, hey, so I've worked with some IFBB pros, Jocelyn Artowitz and some other guys down here, because I'm a neurosurgeon, but I'm also an amateur bodybuilder, and I've seen some of your videos, and because I was getting back into squatting slowly, just like light. I was doing like 3 plates, just very strict.
That's very light.
Well, for some reason, it
is light for you. I'm saying a lot of people watching this be like, light, 315. Yeah,
well,
go ahead.
Well, I worked up to 215 for 315, but that was kind of the most I wanted to do. I didn't want to go any higher. And for some reason, I could squat with no pain at all, but I couldn't bend down. I couldn't leg press. So anyway, he started messaging me and said, well, can you describe your symptoms? So I told him I can squat just fine. I can't get on leg press, even with no weight on the sled. As soon as I start to come down my back, the pain is just horrific. And then he told me, without me showing him the MRI scans, he told me what he thought it was. And he was almost exactly right. So that made me, I was like, okay, I'm going to listen to this guy then, because he's told me, he sounds pretty good. So he said, squatting and deadlifting are your 2, or rack pulls to start with, but they're your 2 main rehab exercises that you should be doing. And I was like, oh, I like the sound of this then, because I don't want to be told you're never going to deadlift again or you're never going to squat again. So he had me send him some videos of doing just really high rack pulls, so like mid-thigh, but super strict, and working on a bunch of like holding a vacuum, shoulder depression and retraction, etc. And he just said, send me the videos, we'll have a look at them. So I did them. He tweaked a few things, and then we basically just started building up from there. And like I said, that was maybe 5 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago. And now I rack pulled from mid shin. I rack pulled 5 plates of and then I squatted last Sunday. I squatted 6 plates for 4 of the week. Yesterday I squatted safety bar, squatted 5 plates for 12.
Yeah, I saw it on Instagram. It looked like almost effortless. Like
I don't want to jinx myself, but I can still feel it. Don't get me wrong. Like I know it's there, and if I don't brace and control it and work, if I don't respect it, it's gonna bite me. But God, I'm 1,000,000% better. Yeah.
Right on. Well, God, good to hear, because that's lower back injuries. A lot of people are never ever the same again. They never get back to squatting, never deadlift again, ever. So, I mean, you're still young. How old are you? I never asked that.
I'm 32.
Oh, so you're a young guy. You bounce right back. Yeah, don't hurt your back when you're 42 or 50. It's not going to be the same. So, I guess the last thing I want to ask about Luke is, because I know you won't avoid any questions. Did it come completely as a shock, or did part of you, when it happened, think you were always afraid it was going to happen, but you didn't think it would happen? Or I'm just curious because if you knew him that well, like I know you did, you probably realized that he was dealing with things that were that extreme and that, I don't know, that heavy that he would get to that point maybe one day. Did you think he would ever get to that point?
Um, yeah, I think I've said this when when I spoke on Fuad's podcast first about this, and um, it was shocking but not surprising, is what I think. I think that's the way I worded it. I actually thought, again, I was talking to my wife about this. It was something that I thought he was going to have to struggle with when he retired, because I used to see how he was, and I knew that competing was very much keeping him occupied and distracted from other things. And I figured, you hear a lot about how athletes in all major league sports get some depression when they retire, and they don't get to run out in front of the fans anymore, and they're not the superstar athlete. And it worried me, not because I didn't think he could deal with losing the fans, but just that distraction of having something to work towards. Every time he'd do a show, it's like you do a show and you spent 4 months and that's all you think about. And then you almost get a little depressed after a show. You're like,
I say it's like postpartum depression because you
yeah,
spend 4 months working toward that one day, and then the next day after the show, you're like, now what do I do? What do I do?
yeah. And
You're
it was
lost.
every time it happened with Luke, regardless of how he did, it was it was chaotic. It was bad. He was really battle with it. And there'd be days where I'd still be in my groove because I hadn't competed. I'm like, oh, we're training today. And he'd mess me. He was like, I'm going to stay home today. And I'm like, but you haven't left the house in 2 days. Like, let's just get back into doing something. He's like, I'm just going to rest my body. And, I think he found the excuses that sounded good. Like, oh, I'm going to rest my body. I've had if I rest up now, I'm going to take a month off the gym. But I don't think it did him good, if that makes sense. Like, it sounded good in theory,
Yeah.
but I think it left him in his head, and I think that was a dangerous place for him. Yeah, like I said, it wasn't something that was. I didn't disbelieve it when I heard it.
Do we all had our theories about the quarantine. Well, suicide rates, they are up. That's not speculation. They are way up these past few
Yeah.
months. Do you think that played a role in it? The fact that he couldn't get to the gym and be around other people. He had to train in a garage and didn't have a contest really to look forward to. Yeah, I mean, do you feel like that the whole quarantine
All of that,
situation played a yeah,
all of it.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think
that's
what
rough.
it did was it replicated the scenario that I discussed. What if he'd have retired, right?
Yeah,
It replicated that. Well, now what? No, and now what do I do? And he hadn't got enough things in line, in order to be able to handle not competing or not training. He
yeah,
hadn't got he hadn't got everything else in his life correct. Um, whether that was personally or mentally, he hadn't got round to it yet. And it was something he was dealing with. I don't want to talk too much, but he was, before the lockdown happened, he was speaking to a professional, right?
right, right.
And he was aware that he needed to fix some things in his own head. So, and one of the messages I got within the month before he passed, he told me that he was definitely going to go back once he could get back to that and try and get to the bottom of it. So he was aware of it. I was aware of it, and yeah, it wasn't like it was shocking or out of the blue.
I know. Okay, so thanks for sharing all that. Now you're in prep now.
Mhm.
I'm curious, what contest are you getting ready for, Ben?
So there's two that I'm looking at. One's 12 weeks, Saturday just gone, 12 weeks out and 14 weeks out. It's the Heart of Texas and the Texas State Cup, I think, or Texas State. Yeah,
Okay.
they're both local to me, and my baby is due on the 30th of October, so they're about 3 or 4 weeks before then. I figure I can get them out of the way.
Yeah, you don't want to do them right after the baby's born.
No. So I was talking to my wife and I was like, hey, this was like, I was about 24 weeks out and I hadn't decided to do a show yet, but I was like, my back's starting to feel okay. If I can get some good training in the next 10, 12 weeks, would you mind if I did a show before the baby comes? She's like, if you want to do it, do it. So that's,
So is that the end game? Because then your baby's born, and I mean, most guys would say, "Well, that's it," and then I'm doing the nationals or the UK BFF finals, or especially
yeah,
where
no,
you've been at that level already too, at the
no,
national level.
I just compete for fun. It sounds weird. I have no desire or need to be a pro. If I did get a pro card, I think I'd be so far down the bottom structurally and genetically. I don't see the value in it. I'd be a journeyman, right? I'd be going around doing pro shows and picking up 15th, 16th. Some of those guys, I mean, I've trained for 5 years with one of the most genetically elite people there is.
Right.
I know the difference, and I think it allowed me to go, oh, I'm not that. Like, I love it, and I'll do it to the best that I can do it, but I'm under no illusion that I'll never be Mr. Olympia. I'll never make it to Olympia. I'll never win a pro show. If I happen to win a pro card, then that's great, but it's not my driving force.
Wow.
You
Yeah.
know?
I mean, that's commendable. I know a ton of people who either are delusional and they think they're destined to be Mr. Olympia, even though they can't place top 5 in the novice class at a local show, or
Yeah.
they just want to put IFBB Pro on their Instagram or their Facebook. They know they suck, but
Yeah.
they know there's so many, especially Americans. We know we have so many ways to turn pro. Until you're 80 years old, you can be a pro here. There's so many ways
Yeah.
that if you get lucky, if you just keep doing enough shows, it's like Las Vegas. You might just get the right hand of cards dealt to you that day and turn pro. So it's rare that somebody is realistic enough like yourself, and you still want to challenge yourself. I mean, your goals are to improve on the way you looked the last time you competed, I assume.
Yes and no. I think with the injuries I've got, the limitations that I've got, and the short time I've got to work with, I think if we didn't have a baby on the way, I'd have probably delayed until middle of next year.
Yeah.
And I probably could have bought up some body parts. I could have worked on some things, especially my back. I mean, I couldn't train my back at all for even doing a lat pull down until relatively recently. So,
Wow.
and my back's not my back is one of my weaker areas. So, I don't think I can improve on the complete look. I think I can improve on the final look on stage. I think I can peak better, and I think I can be in better condition. So that I'm trying to go for those things. The things I can control right now, I can control my condition. Right, my size is my size. I'm not going to grow right now. I can pose better, and I can get in better condition. And they're what I'm trying to do right now. I mean, my primary objective career-wise is as a coach. I prep people. That's what I do, and I like to be able to walk the walk alongside my clients. So I do HIIT cardio for I'm 270 pounds. I do HIIT cardio for my cardio, but I do it myself, which means that when I give it to my client, they can't complain because anything I give them, I've done or do myself. So, yeah, it's I have a different motivation. I think the accident, not dying, changed my outlook on what I want out of life a little bit. I want to be happy and I want to do the things I enjoy doing, but I'm not prepared to. I see it like you said. I see a lot of guys chasing an unrealistic dream and hurting their partners, like their emotionally, relationships, giving up careers, or putting all their eggs in one basket, which I know worked for Dorian. It worked for the top pros, but for every top pro that it worked for, 100 guys that never turned pro that it didn't work for. So it's a really hard one to figure out. And like you said, if you're not even making the top 5 in a novice show within the first 2-3 years of competing, the chances are genetically you don't have what it takes to make a living from this.
Right.
And I think that's where I'm like, I'm not attempting to make a living from it. I'm going to do it as a hobby. And if I get as far as I can whilst it's a hobby, but I'm income, yeah, then yeah, it's a tough one, because I know some guys want to. There's a lot of people that will tell you you can achieve anything you want if you put enough work in, and I don't ever want to discourage that, but it's this sport relies heavily on genetics.
Yeah, it does. You know, I'm glad you say that because I love Kai Green. I think he's a fantastic guy, but I've heard some of his things he said where he puts that in people's heads that if they believe in themselves enough and this and that, they can achieve anything. Well, not in bodybuilding. You can't. No, you're not going to be Mr. Olympia with shit genetics. I don't care how strongly you believe you're going to be Mr. Olympia and you get up every day. I believe in myself. You know, if your hips are this wide and your clavicles are this wide and your muscle bellies are this long, no, find something else. You know, do it as a hobby. So man,
I think it's one of those things as well. It's a sport that you might not know you have the genetics to do until you're 3, 4, 5 years in.
True.
Take basketball for example. If you're 5'4", you probably already know you're not going to be an NBA player. Yeah. But if you're 6'8", there's a genetic physicality that is evident for everyone to see that, oh, you're built like a basketball player. Nobody's at 15 or 14 built like a bodybuilder. No one, you don't know until you've started to go down that path. And I think Lee Priest has said it, after a year of training, naturally or not, you'll be able to tell whether somebody's got something worth pursuing.
Right. I mean, going back to Luke for a second, I remember he told me before he started training, they called him Brick Shithouse, and he was already like 190 pounds at, what was he, 5'8", 5'9"?
5'7".
Huge, big arms, big calves. He was already a stocky guy. So once he started lifting, boom, it was miraculous. Within a year, I think he got up to like 260 in his first year of training. You know, that's somebody you could see, okay, he's supposed to be a bodybuilder. That guy right there, that's a bodybuilder. You know. Anyway.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like I said, I spent the first 2 years of us training. I pretty much would live at his. I would drive to his in the morning, and we'd eat together, and we'd go train together. And like I said, we trained together because we were lifting the same weight. And I'd watch my body respond, and then I'd watch his respond. I'm like, I'm broken. Mine's not doing the same thing that his is doing over there. Yeah. It was incredible. And then he'd start dieting, and I'm like, oh, well, he's going to lose some size now. And he wouldn't. He'd diet and just get leaner and rounder, and his body weight kind of stayed the same. And I'm like, okay, there's a difference here. And it's not because he wants it more. It's not because he's training harder, gets up earlier, eats more food, lifts more weights. There's a difference that is intangible. You can't quantify it.
Right. No, good point. I mean, I was just thinking about this the other day because I used to train with Jose Raymond, who's one of the thickest human beings the world has ever seen. He would be dieting. He'd be down on like 0 carbs for weeks sometimes, 2 hours of cardio a day. He'd get leaner and leaner, but that muscle wasn't going anywhere. And he'd be on like 50 grams of carbs a day, you know, and I'm looking at him and it just blew my mind. Just the genetics on someone like that, they're so rare. It's hard to appreciate until you're right there next to him, like you were with Luke, that's human beings can be that genetically diverse, where some people really just meant to have that crazy look.
Yeah. But, and it's the same thing even within the pro ranks, because you'd see some pros that even Luke blew out the water with his progress would just be exponential, and they would be not making the same progress, even though I know they train just as hard, you know, I know they're putting in the work, but Luke's body just responded. It's mad.
Last question for you, Ben.
Sure.
The bandana, as you call it.
Yeah.
When did that become a thing? That seems like your trademark.
I always used to wear like beanie hats, and then after my accident, like I said, I had the scar in my head, and because I had the scar in my head, I started to grow my hair out really long, and then the beanies became annoying because I couldn't there was too much hair, and then so I started wearing bandanas there. So, and then it stuck. Yeah. I'm trying to educate Fuad and James Hollinshead on the style of it at the minute. They're going
I
to.
don't know if it would look like. I don't think they would pull it off the way you do. I think you have to have that certain kind of look and the hair and everything sticking out, and you pull it off. I don't know if Fuad
Yeah,
and James.
Fuad got some funny comments about how he looks with his, which are probably a bit too racial for me to
Yeah,
comment on.
no, don't do that. So that's you're on his podcast every week now, Bodybuilding and Bollocks, right?
I'm on as much as he needs me. I said, look, if he asked me to go on right after Luke passed, because that was his and Luke's thing.
Yeah.
And I don't ever, I've said to him, look, I'm not looking for a perm. Like, if you want me on, I'll be on. And so far, he's wanted me on. People seem to enjoy hearing me. And I think I have some stories. I'm a connection to Luke for some people, and that's great. If I can provide that, then I'll do that. I spoke to Fred this morning. I'm on this Thursday again. We're recording. It's good fun. I think it helps him and I, because we both have connected heavily since Luke passed. It's been a friendship has forged from it, that he's been there for me and I've been there for him. Certain days where we're struggling, and as good as my wife is, sometimes I just want a guy to chat to.
Right on. Cool.
So yeah, it's good. It's good fun. If do you watch it, you tune in.
I've seen a couple episodes. I actually saw the first time I saw you on the show was on some other guy's video where he was mad that you were talking about him, plates before dates, or I'm sorry, more plates, more dates. The guy
Okay.
he tells you how many he looks at people and tries to guess what their cycle is. He
All
does
right.
very well. The guy's got crazy views on YouTube, so God bless him. But that's where I first saw it, and I was like, yeah, Ben's actually, I've never really heard you speak at length. And I was like, oh, he's pretty good on this podcast.
Oh,
I thought you'd be a regular.
I haven't seen this video. What's this?
What was it?
Bashing me.
Oh no, wait. Oh, I have it wrong. I'm sorry.
We
No,
did
it was no. It was actually I got it wrong. It was actually Luke and Fuad. We were talking about that guy.
Okay.
I haven't seen you on it. Now I got to check it out. Huh?
We did one on the Athlete X guy, and that one went.
That's right. That's what I saw.
Yeah.
Athlete next, the fake weights, and is he natty or is he not? And
Yeah.
that's how fascinating the bodybuilding world is now. That's like a big news item.
There's not much going on though. There's not much going on. It must be hard for you trying to be a bodybuilding journalist with no bodybuilding.
Dude. Especially because I don't like the gossip. I don't like that stuff. It annoys me. I just think it's like middle school, childish stuff.
So I've got a question for you then, which isn't gossip, but pertaining to bodybuilding.
Sure.
He's a friend of mine. He's a local Texan, Hunter Labrada.
Oh, dude.
32 days out.
Yeah.
I saw those pictures this morning. That's impressive, no?
Yeah, I interviewed Hunter for this channel maybe 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been following him, of course. I was a big fan of his father way back. I used to see his dad compete. And man, Hunter's no disrespect to anyone else doing that show. Like Ian Valliere is no joke either. Obviously, you saw him in Tampa. But man, Hunter's looking scary now. Just full round, thick, not lacking anything. I'm very excited to see this kid.
I was talking to him this morning, and he said to me that this prep, he's used Luke as a lot of motivation. When he's struggling and got in the gym, he said that Luke's, and I like that from my point of view. I'm like, that's a cool thing. If Luke can help Hunter realize potential in a way, that's pretty cool. But I'm impressed. I'm excited to see how because Tampa's going to be stacked.
I'm worried because now Florida, the cases of the virus are way up again. I'm starting to panic, but man, please God, just let it happen, please. We got to get these shows going again. We have to. This has been the worst 3 months, 4 months for this industry. It's just been a standstill. So yeah. Are you hoping to be in Tampa? Can you hear me?
No, I'm due to fly to Boca on the 17th of August to film with REDCON for a week. But yeah.
Okay. So
actually,
videos.
You see, they hooked me up. I didn't want to go.
Nice.
They sent me a backdrop, but I didn't want to put it on and dominate with too much REDCON stuff. But
it's okay. I mean, Yeah, I got no problem with Redcon, obviously.
Yeah, no, sure.
So,
But yeah, so I'm now worried because if I can't get, I was looking forward to getting out there and catching up with the guys because I haven't seen them since Vegas. Oh no, Nationals. I went for Nationals.
still, that
So
was a long time ago. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah. Well, let's hope. Let's hope for the best. Let's hope
yeah,
the world gets back to normal pretty damn soon, because this is driving. We're all starting to get a little stir crazy with
for
this
sure.
going on. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, Ben, thank you so much for taking the time. It's been cool getting to know you. So your videos, you can be found. A lot of your video content can be found on REDCON1's YouTube channel. Do you have your own YouTube as well?
So I actually am starting my own YouTube channel tomorrow.
Ah, okay.
I'm filming for my YouTube channel tomorrow, and then it'll be up this week sometime. So
Okay.
yeah, keep a lookout for that, and then everything else is on Fuad's the Bodybuilding and Bollocks podcast.
And
So
of course, Instagram, squat like Chow. That's easy to remember, people. You can't forget that. Squat like Chow.
there you go.
If you follow him, maybe you'll be able to squat like Chow. I don't know, man. Cool. Thanks again for taking the time. It's been cool getting to know you a little bit.
Yeah,
Hope to run into you soon at one of these shows, guy. That's all.
for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, I look forward to it. Thank you for having me on.
All right, everybody. Thanks for watching Ronline Report with this man, Ben Chow. We'll see you next time.